Now let's turn our attention to Africa. Voters have been lining up at polling stations in Rwanda to elect their next president. 66-year-old incumbent Paul Kagame, who has ruled the Central African country for nearly a quarter of a century, is expected to cruise to victory. President Kagame has won more than 93% of the vote at each of the 3 previous elections. 8 candidates had applied to run against him, but only 2 were retained in the final list validated by the Electoral Commission. The others, including Paul Kagame's most vocal critics, were barred for various reasons that include prior criminal convictions. For more on this election in Rwanda, David Aworawo, who's a professor of international relations and strategic studies, joins me from here in Lagos. Thank you so much for joining us, Prof.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
All right, so Paul Kagame has dominated every election since becoming president in 2000. And some analysts think that this exercise is only a formality. Do you agree with them?
Exactly so, because the candidates that could have, that could have held their own and performed, fairly well in the election, have all been, prevented from contesting. Some are even locked up in different jails. And so the result is that Kagame will coast to victory. The last one, he won nearly 99%. So 97%, 99%. And so it's a formality. I mean, he's going to win and he's going to be in power for the next 5 years, at least. And of course, with the possibility of even continuing beyond the next 5 years.
Well, that will make him 71. But then there are only 2 opposition candidates in this election, just as you have mentioned. Does that bother you in any way?
Yes, it does, because the basic tenets of democracy are rejected. They are not followed in the process of election in Rwanda. The system is, structured in a way that the incumbent is the only person that has the ability or the capacity to win the election. All those who are fairly popular, as soon as their popularity begins to expand and the government notices it, the government acts to seek ways to either arrest the person, get trump-up charges against the person, and ensure that the person does not contest. Even Pasteur Bizimungu, who was the president of Rwanda from 1994 to 2000, to whom Kagame was vice president. It's only when they disagreed, Kagame looked for a way to edge him out. And when he was edged out, and the man, Bizimungu, went ahead to form a political party, Kagame went after him and he was arrested. They looked for different charges against him, and he was barred from contesting election thereafter. So even a former president has suffered that fate. So everybody else, he has been treated the same way. And so to use the term democracy for what is going on in Rwanda, I think is a misnomer. Democracy will not be the right word to do. It's just selection of their leaders. It's not, the tenets of democracy are not followed in this process. And so I wouldn't want to use the word democracy or democratic process to describe what is going on in Rwanda.
All right. And for the first time, both the parliamentary and presidential elections are holding. And one of the contenders in this election, that's the presidential election, Frank Habineza, is quite optimistic about his party winning more seats in parliament. How do you see that go?
Yes, so he has a couple of seats, I think 4 or so seats already, and he's confident that he will win more. Yeah, that will likely happen. But it doesn't change much. But they have 80 seats. And if he's able to pick maybe even up to 10, it won't alter the political terrain and calculation any extensively. So, yes, his confidence is well placed. He will likely win a couple of more seats. But it will be insignificant. The impact will be negligible so as to change anything. So Kagame will see emerged, and the system as you have it now will continue for at least the next 5 years.
But do you think that Rwanda has actually healed from the ethnic marginalizations that were faced back then, talking about the genocide in 1994. And do you think that Paul Kagame can actually do something about this?
Yes, a whole lot has been done since 1994. They carried out transitional justice, the Gachacha courts, and all that, and they also tried to bring the system of collective amnesia. Let's just forget about what happened in 1994 and just move on with our lives. It has worked so far, and so directly to your question, has Rwanda healed? Yes, to a large extent, but there are still concerns. There are concerns because of the political and social structure of Rwanda as we speak. As you could see, from 1994, when Pastor Bizimungu became the president, he is Tutsi. Kagame is also Tutsi. So together they've been in power now for 30 years. Recall that what happened in 1994 was that the Tutsis had been in power for a long time. They were controlling power. And then a Hutu became president, Aberimana, whose plane was shot down. It was the death of Aberimana that was the immediate cause of the 1994 genocide. Now, who replaces Kagame when he leaves? Now we have calm because the Tutsis are there. When the Hutu say, oh, we also want to be part of the political process, we want to be president, will there also be calm? So there is a structure that is defective. And when we analyze the conflict, scholars like, many scholars have analyzed conflicts at different levels. I've come to the conclusion that root causes of conflict, have to be addressed for you to have sustainable peace. Johan Gatung and the rest of them, it is clear in the literature. And practical analysis has also confirmed this. The root causes of conflict in Rwanda, to my mind, have not been addressed. And that is the fear moving forward. So who replaces Kagame? Again, he has been successful, but as someone says, success without successor is not really success. So there is fear, for the future of Rwanda, that maybe what we have now may be just the lull before the storm. We just pray it doesn't happen, but the structures to ensure that that does not happen have not been put in place. And they must have to be put in place for Rwanda to be stable post-Kagame.
All right. And what do you think that African leaders can do in all of this? Bearing in mind especially that in Africa, there's a thing with the leaders, being sitting tight and not wanting, to leave the helm of affairs. And in the case of Paul Kagame, despite the fact that the Constitution actually allows him to run for the presidency again, do you think that the people, are actually satisfied with the deliverables he's given them over time to want him to continue?
Well, the people are happy. I've been there, and I've been there, and I've spoken to many Rwandans. They are quite happy with the, development of the country as experiences in 1994. Social development, economic development. The average, the average performance of the economy has been 7.2%. Consistent increase in their GNP since 1994. At least from 2012 to 2022, those 10 years, and that consistency has continued. And of course, we have extensive health infrastructure, education, and all that. They are quite happy with that. But of course, that will not solve the problem of political stability, because at some point, Kagame will leave. Who replaces him? That's a fundamental question. The root causes of 1994 genocide, to my mind, have not been addressed. And they will have to be addressed by looking for a constitutional model in which both the Hutu, the Tutsi and Hutu will share power, will be in government, such that, moving forward, there will not be confusion as to what happens. Because, just enjoying some social, some social benefit from the government is not alone to solve the problem of exclusion. And that exclusion issue has to be resolved moving forward for Rwanda to have stability post-Kagame.
All right, then, Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies, David Aworawo, thank you so much for talking to us on World Now.
Thank you for having me.